Good evening. Good evening. Welcome.
Say it again.
Good evening. Sorry, if you don't know me, I'm Mike Hegeman, and let me introduce to you, I was going to say the Reverend Doctor, but I'm the Reverend Doctor.
You're the Reverend Doctor.
Right. Dr. Rebecca Berry, and I have her bio here, even though we've known each other 12-ish years. Yeah, all right. So, but let me read the official word here, and I can clue you in on some unofficial things. No. All right. Rebecca Berry studied Russian in the first part of her academic career, and then switched from humanities to social sciences to get a doctorate in parks, recreation, and tourism at the University of Utah. Yeah.
Yay, Utah. Yay, Parks and Recreation.
And I won't tell them about your scatological dissertation. No, right, okay.
So, it was about how to get people to pick up after their dogs.
Right.
It's all about messaging.
Yes.
Which is your specialty too, by the way.
Yes,
Father
messaging,
Mike.
right.
Yeah.
She is interested in scenic beauty, landscape perception, pro-social behavior, and messaging in park settings, environmental interpretation, and survey design. She has recently become a certified interpretive guide, and so this is all related to national parks and the like, through the National Association of Interpretation. She is currently a senior lecturer, teaching courses such as History of Wilderness and Parks in America, Leisure and Quality of Life, Environmental Communication, Interpretation and Research and Evaluation. Yep, every year her evaluation students and interpretation students complete projects in the local community. Her interpretation class sponsors a yearly camping trip to the Grand Canyon National Park for students and faculty in School of Community Resources and Development. So they're learning all about how the national parks communicate their message and teach through the national park system, and about helping students to evaluate that process, to continue that process in whatever work they go into. So, yeah. Right. We know each other from the Phoenix Symphony Chorus, and we have traveled the world together, have we not? We have, yes.
We swam in a lake in the Alps.
That was, I think, most recently. It's at least 4 years ago. But,
yes.
And explored the coastline of Maine together. And we learn a lot from each other, and really grateful that you could come and spend this time with us. And I think maybe their first question might, if that's your field, why are we talking about fungi tonight? So
right.
I'm sure she'll tell us all about that.
So I will explain, yes. Thank you, Mike. So actually, my interest in mushrooms predates my parks and recreation academic stuff. When I lived in Russia, it was a big thing. It's a major cultural thing to go collecting mushrooms. I knew all the names in Russian before I knew them in English, including being instructed by a 4-year-old about "это плохая," that's a bad one. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, you have to trust the 4-year-old because she knows the bad stuff. And then when I met my former husband, he was getting his master's degree in forestry with a specialty in mycology. So I taught him all the Russian words, he taught me all the English words, and I've been on many forays with him, and I used mushrooms. I've been using them as an example of how to do like an interpretive talk. So this brings me to how we're going to run this one. In park natural resource and cultural resource interpretation is an audience-involved process. This is not the talking head, because national park audiences that come by to hear why are rocks in Grand Canyon like pancakes? The oldest ones are on the bottom. They're a non-captive audience. I mean, as you are, you can leave with no penalty, though of course you don't want to. But so the idea of interpretation is to involve your audience and make it interesting, and also have some takeaways that sort of go beyond, I want you to remember some facts now. So it's actually, I mean, honestly, we have very similar jobs. It's something about inspiring action, inspiring caring for the resource, and also making it easy to remember, because who can remember anything? I cannot remember anything. So it has to be short. So one of the things we do in interpretation is have a theme, because you can hang everything on your theme. So our theme tonight is hidden treasures and connections. And actually, stupid English, it's hidden treasures and the connections are not hidden, okay? Just to be clear about that. So on the science-y side, this is about faith and science and faith. We're gonna look at what are fungi, and I'm not gonna tell you everything I know about fungi, because you would be bored, and I would too. We're gonna focus on how do fungi and mushrooms act as treasures and connectors in two contexts, the ecosystem and for humans. And then on the faith side, and you guys will have to help me here because you are the experts, I want you to start thinking about this concept of hidden treasures and connections. And what does this spark when you think about articles of faith, maybe even like things that are said in the Bible, concepts and stuff like that. And we're going to visit this as we go. So how this has been set up, I think, historically in the past is somebody talks for an hour, and then you have questions for half an hour. What I would like to do is interlard questions and participation as we go, and then I will leave some time for free-floating fun at the end. Okay. This is how this is my understanding of why we are interested in this. I really like Thomas Aquinas, and he didn't exactly say this. I paraphrased it because his stuff is from the Summa Theologica, and I don't speak Latin. But we should use our intellects to understand creation, including fungi. Okay, so John, you have to be quiet because you know. What are the 5 kingdoms of life? Give me some suggestions. Animal, yes. No, mineral is not alive, but good try. Plant, and we've got the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the which now? Okay, you're smart. Okay, that's 3. Yes, fungi. Yeah, there's 2 kingdoms of little stuff, and we know that there's more, but again, we can't remember everything, so we're going to stick with 5. So you guys mostly got most of them. Was the animal kingdom, and I'm going to compare the kingdoms so you can see why fungi are so special. Animals are multicellular. We are animals, we have a digestive tract, we can't make our own food, but we can steal it from the kitchen. The plant kingdom, they're also multicellular. They don't need a digestive tract, they make their own food. So clever, so amazing, they're the only ones, almost the only ones who can do it. They use, photosynthesis and fancy green chlorophyll and whatnot. And this is gonna come in handy when it comes to fungus in a minute. Okay, so one of the little ones is the protists. These are like the unicellular animals. They're not animals, they're protists. They have nucleus and cell parts. Sometimes they make their own food, sometimes they scavenge. We don't really care about them, except for, I should tell you that today we have 5 kingdoms. A lot of people have split these little guys into like 10 godzillion other kingdoms, and I'm like, la, la, la. No. 5 kingdoms. Okay, we've got bacteria, so yay. They're unicellular, but they have no nucleus. They are basically little chemical factories. We have some really horrible ones here. I mean, all of these cause disease. So we don't care about them anymore either. What we really care about is fungus. So what is a fungus? They used to be classified as plants before anybody understood, because they look like they grow, they look like they're rooted, but they are not plants because they don't make their own food. They get food from other places, and we will talk about where they get their food. Sometimes it's like a barter arrangement. And they also digest their food outside of their bodies, out in the mycelium, which we'll get to. So some great examples of fungus. Usually when you think of fungus, you think, oh, mushroom. The fancy word for that is macrofungi. But there's all kinds of other fungus that are not mushrooms, like yeast, bread mold, which I know you've seen. Has anybody eaten the corn smut, the huitlacoche? So amazingly delicious. In the US, I think in Arizona, you can get it in cans in like Food City, but it is unbelievably good. I mean, it looks terrible, but it is so, John, have you had huitlacoche? Have you eaten huitlacoche? No. It's so good. You guys, when you go to a fancy Mexican restaurant, if they have it on the menu, just get it. It's really good.
What's it called in Espanol?
They call it huitlacoche. Huitl.
Yeah,
I don't know. We will Google it. Yes, corn smut. Corn smut. Okay. So, how are fungi treasures and connectors in the ecosystem? The first way is with a really amazing partnership with plants. But before we get to the partnership, we have to talk about mycelium. And I really will not burden you with too many horrible big words today, but the two big horrible words I will tell you both start with M, and I'm sorry. Has anybody ever dug in the ground, broken apart logs, looked underneath leaves, and you see the white stuff under there? So what did you guys think it was when you first saw that? Gross? What did you think it was? Mold. Oh, see, you're smarter than me. For years, I thought that this was spider webs, and I would go, spiders. It is, in fact, mycelium, which is the main body of a fungus. So what we see when we see a mushroom, that's like basically seeing an apple without seeing the apple tree. It's like, I think, I was trying to find a picture of it. The largest organism in the world is this giant colony of honey mushrooms in Idaho or something. It's like, it weighs 20 tons. I don't know what it weighs. It's huge. And it's like all underground. And then the honey mushrooms kept popping up. So it's like this it's not a vast underground conspiracy. It's a vast hidden network that is the main body of a fungus. And mushrooms, of course, are only the above ground part of this much larger organism. So here's some more pictures of mycelium. It's this interconnected stuff. And there's all kinds of fancy words to describe the mycelium, like hyphae. No, we're not learning it. I mean, it's past 7 p.m. Has anybody been watching Star Trek Discovery besides Mike? Okay. Okay. So this is science fiction. It is not a real thing. But one of the really cool things about this latest version of Star Trek is that they have imagined this mycelial network between the stars and in outer space. It's kind of invisible, and almost nobody can travel along it except for giant tardigrades. But the idea is that that mushrooms, or this mycelia, connect all life. And it's like, it kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And they consulted with one of the major mushroom experts in the US, Paul Stamets, and they actually named a character in Discovery after Paul Stamets. And I met Anthony Rapp, the actor who plays Paul Stamets, and he said, I met Paul. And he was totally starstruck. So this, of course, is imaginary, but it's really interesting, and it's catching this idea that we're seeing in these books that we're reading, that fungi are so important to life and really connect life in a lot of ways. We're pretty sure there isn't an outer space mycelium, but it would be cool. Especially because Discovery has this way of traveling the mycelial network, and it can instantly transport from place to place, and yes, it's fabulous. Okay, so now it's gonna be your turn. What faith parallels do you see with mycelium? And I'm giving you prompts on this one. You'll be on your own for the next faith parallels. Visible fruit's only a small part of the story. So what I'd like you to do is find a friendly person near you, and in 2s and 3s, just see what you can come up with in your small groups. You can have 2 minutes, go. You guys are so much better than my college class. There's this roar of sound at the beginning, and then it like falls off after 45 seconds, and they're like, I hope she won't notice we're not doing it. I love grown-ups.
Here and not anywhere else.
Yes, because less cattle prods. Yes. Okay, you guys, what did you come up with? Well, let's see. How about over here? Tell us your ideas.
Well, just all life on Earth is all interconnected and interdependent, and and the Bible talks about all the different parts of the body, how everything has an essential role.
So cool.
And then, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Oh, you're good.
No, okay.
Thank you. All right, let's go up here.
The way the church started, house churches, underground, eventually the word spread, supportive in a network where we saw very few prophets or people like Jesus or John pop up like that.
The early Christian communities working underground because of the mean Romans. Okay, gold stars for both of you. All right, John.
Our group came up with the same concept of, underground and the beginning of Christianity's spreading. But I was informing the group about this is not my thought, but it was kind of a clever thought from a person that I knew. And is that when you get these different mycelia from different organisms, they can come together and actually anastomose and continue on as a sort of a hybrid. And so what this can happen many times between different colonies of these fungi that are underground or mycelial compositions. And he described them as ecumenical.
I love it. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Okay. You guys are so clever.
We thought maybe the underground or the hidden would be like the Holy Spirit.
Ooh.
And that we are that which shows above ground because we are out trying to display the gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Oh.
And
we're fruiting bodies.
So
oh, wow, that's so cool.
That's where we were basically, right?
This is awesome. Okay. Who else?
I think those kinds of things. I mean, the quick allusion is to the fruits of the Spirit, that visible part of what we do as community, faith community, is only the smallest part of what's going on below the surface. The fruits of the Spirit are so necessary, and yet what's going on beneath it, the work of the Spirit in us is, sorry, you get the sermon. This is come back on Sunday for the sermon. So.
Another thing about a fungus is it has spores often, which are like a prophet that goes away, and like Paul or somebody that goes someplace else.
Ooh, I like it.
And suddenly appears.
Except for prophets are never prophets in their own country, and spores can do everywhere.
Yeah.
But yes, that is a great idea. Yes.
Loners.
Yeah, and the spores come out of the fruiting bodies. So if prophets are fruiting bodies, there you go. I like this. All right, we're writing a book. Okay. Okay, so now we know what mycelium is, and because we need to know what mycelium is before we get to this amazing partnership. So when I first learned this, I was blown away. I had no idea that fungus and trees and woody herbaceous plants and many, many plants are like super interdependent with each other. I just had no idea. So here we see an aspen bolete with its aspen tree, a fly agaric, muhamor, what's the word? It's an amanita. What is it? What's the amanita? Thank you, Amanita muscaria, fly agaric. It's partnered with many trees. And here's how it works. So the mycelium gathers, it's all through the soil, and it can easily gather nutrients. It's like we can go everywhere. We grow very quickly, unlike tree roots. We can grab stuff, no problem. We're everywhere. The trees cannot be everywhere, but can fungus make their own food? No. Can the tree? Yes. So they work out a trade. Yes. I would like to be friends with somebody who makes sugar, too. So it ends up being this mycorrhizal relationship. Myco is mushroom, rhizal is root. So you've heard of like irises having rhizomes. Have you heard that word rhizome? That's the fancy Latin or Greek, or is it Latin? It's Greek, okay. If there's a Z in it, it's definitely Greek. Okay, so here is the easy to understand picture of this mutual relationship. We have trees making sugar, giving them to the fungus, and the fungus gathers nutrients. The mycorrhiza spreads out further than the tree roots can manage. It's a lot of work to make roots. Mycelium is easy. So they're like, we'll go do your nutrient shopping, and thanks for the cupcakes. There are like 9 million beautiful comparative pictures that you can see of here is your plant without its fungus partners, and here is your plant with fungus partners. You can even go to the Ace Hardware and get, like, I don't know, fungus fertilizer for your tomatoes. It's unbelievable the difference that it makes. So these are the roots by themselves, and here are the roots with the mycelium. So they basically act as an extended root system for the plants. And certain plants, like certain fungi, I mean, there's some certain established partnerships. But I was blown away to learn how many trees and plants would die without their fungal partners, especially in marginal soils, which means very poor soils, nutrient poor soils. Blueberries alone, yeah. All right, so you knew this was coming. No prompts this time, so think about the mycorrhizal relationship. You have the trees on the one hand offering food to the fungus, and the fungus, on the other hand, gathering far-flung nutrients and bringing it back to the tree. What faith parallels do you see? You may have 3 minutes this time. Go. All right. I would like to hear from you guys. And I'm going to give the mic to Fata Mike. What parallels did you guys see with the mycorrhizal relationship? What came up for you?
Oh, Diane's gonna-
Yeah.
So we were thinking that the tree, that's the church. We look to God. God helps us root into the earth where we dwell, right?
Okay.
Okay, then the mycelium,
And
we think that's the communion of the saints in the angelic realm, the people who have prayed for us for eons, the scriptures that have come
fantastic
to us,
analogy.
that have talked to us through scripture. You know, we pray for our children, grandchildren, and generations. I pray for 7 generations beyond me. Certainly people have before, and 7 generations before. So that mycelium, those prayers, but the angelic realm, the unseen realm of all the communion of saints, people who sit in the pews all around the world, that.
I'm so glad I didn't give you my ideas. These are so much better.
Craig, do you want to go? Sure.
Yeah.
I was just thinking a little, more simply too, just the relationship between the church and everything that occurs symbiotically from the church. So I just gave the analogy. I was driving in here this evening, and there's a couple buses here, lots of kids, a lot of things going on as in the church and what's outgrowth from the church.
So you're seeing like that there's a lot of give and take and a lot of sort of underground richness. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, yeah, I think that's accurate.
Thanks. Thank you. Fantastic.
No, yeah, we'll do.
We had a few. So one of them I
Excellent.
think was very similar to yours, where the little plant was like, we have our faith in God and we can be strong by ourselves, but having the church around us and giving us that support can make us even grow more in the church.
Okay. So this time we're not the fruiting bodies, we're the tree getting help and support from this beautiful
From all our
mycelium.
community and church.
I like it.
And then
like it.
we had another little one.
Tell-
It's a little different.
Tell.
So we also said that you said there's a little relationship between the roots and this mycelium, and they only let certain ones connect. So it's like we only allow the church and the good to connect with us to help us grow instead of connecting to bad.
Okay, like you find your appropriate
Partners to
right,
help
right.
us
So
grow.
like you're an aspen, and then you are friends with the aspen bolete. Right. Gotcha. Okay, that's fantastic. You guys are so imaginative.
We thought of it in terms of outreach, how, like, for instance, Pinnacle has partnerships with these other nonprofits. And so they do what we don't do, but then they kind of connect us to those individuals, and then we are connected to them. So it's kind of, we may give donations, and then in a turn, we can refer our people to them, or they can refer their people to us.
They extend your reach.
Correct.
Right. I love it. So the only thing that I thought of was whatever is it in the liturgy, is it St. Mark who talks about feeling weak and needing help? Am I remembering this correctly? I don't
keep
know.
going. You're
All
very
right.
fine.
Anyway, so the notion of accepting help. Because I have a friend who she's had some bad things happen, and she is so self-conscious about accepting help. She thinks it's a burden. And it was like, it would be a real gift if I could help her. And so like the tree is not saying, no, I'm by myself. It's like, give me help, bring me things, bring me support. Yeah.
To mutual benefit.
To
right?
mutual benefit. Yes, to extend the analogy, I would feel it would help me to be able to help her. So, yeah. Ooh, you guys, okay, John.
The church is getting its nourishment from two sources. God from above, in the way of photosynthesis, giving sunlight, CO2, being able to, and then the nourishment from the parishioners, which are congregations.
Okay.
From
Okay, you get a gold star too. Yeah.
You get a gold star, John.
You get a gold star, John. That's a beautiful analogy. I mean, gold stars all around, really. Okay, you guys, you're amazing. Okay. So where we're at here is we're looking at the ways that fungi are treasures and connectors in the ecosystem. So we've seen one way right now that this mycorrhizal relationship that feeds trees, we're now going to move to the other one that we're going to talk about today. Fungi eat wood. And that's a good thing. Unless you happen to have an infestation on your aspen that's going to fall on your house. But then you have to just cut the aspen. Okay, what if fallen trees did not decompose? What would it look like out there? I mean, in Phoenix, it would look pretty much the same. John, what would it look like if we had no decomposers? Right, we would be up to our ceilings in leaf litter and pine needles and, chips and logs. And it would be very hard to drive anywhere because there would be logs in the way. Yes. So a lot of stuff does get recycled. And actually, I know about recycling because of the dog poop thing. I learned about the great recyclers of nature and why dog poop actually is very difficult because it's carnivore, dogs are carnivores, there's nothing in there that's very attractive to any recycler, which is why it's so noxious. And there's a lot of stuff that's garbage that is attractive. What if I were to drop some cheese on the kitchen floor? Who would get it? Ants, the dog, the mice, maybe the toddler if you were not quick. Yes? Yeah, so animals and insects can be recyclers. So you drop the cheese, peanut butter sandwich, same thing, right? Any kind of like human food, insects or animals would probably like that. But if you drop a piece of wood, is the dog going to go for it? Maybe, but after a taste, right? Insects are really fabulous recyclers. They really like poop, not dog poop. They like cow poop that's full of nice nutrients. But they don't really, most insects don't like wood. Termites are the exception. They eat some parts of wood.
They're dependent on fungi as well to digest it.
Exactly, yes. Nobody can digest, well, we're going to get there. Thank you. I'll pay you later. No, I'll pay you later for the foreshadowing. $10, and then given another one, I'll give you another 10. Okay, so insects are not, dogs, toddlers, and insects are not our only recyclers. We also have bacteria, and they break stuff down as well, which, if the insects did not take away your cheese, eventually, probably the bacteria would eat it up. But bacteria are very limited in their wood-destroying capabilities because they only work on the surface and they only like stuff when it's wet. Because if you were a unicellular animal, you would prefer wet conditions also. In fact, once I was in Grand Teton National Park, and there were a bunch of stumps that had been cut down, and they drilled holes into these stumps. And I was like, And Eric said, it's to make the stump wetter for longer, to encourage breakdown. But nobody likes wood, really. ants will eat some parts of wood. Well, that would be termites, yeah. Really? Only if it's covered with frosting. Yeah. But really, insects are not a major recycler of wood. The star recyclers of wood are fungi. Fungi have been referred to as nature's great disassemblers. They vastly outnumber even carpenter ants, and they can digest anything. And I will show you the really difficult stuff that they digest. So they not only do they help the non-nutritive parts of the tree rot, it also returns nutrients to the soil, which is really important. So you may know, I didn't, this is what I get for being with a forester. I get all these wood parts explained to me. So when you have wood, there's two parts of it mostly. It's lignin and cellulose. And the fungus is the only ones that can digest lignin. That's the woody stuff. Have you ever seen, especially in like the White Mountains or around Flagstaff, have you ever seen a rotting log that looks like this? It's called white rot, and that's when a certain fungus has eaten all the lignin and left behind the other stuff, the cellulose. So you can say, you're on a hike and you say, look at the white rot. And you can be a star. You could also, does this look familiar? Has anybody seen this kind of cubic rot? Yeah, so this is the opposite situation. This is where the cellulose is gone and just left the lignin behind. So that's cubic rot. It's really wonderful to pick up. If you are, say, 3 years old, you could spend a full 45 minutes on a log like this, just taking it apart and saying, look, it's square. Look, that's square too. And both of these logs are just absolutely horrible for burning because there's no more nutrients in it because the fungus has eaten all of it. Okay. So just examples, so when you're, like if you're out and about, so you can know what a wood digesting fungus looks like. Oyster mushrooms, tasty oysters, are wood digesting fungi. Shelf fungi, the ones, if you've ever seen the giant old aspen trees, which I should have found a picture, it almost looks like there's a horse hoof stuck on the aspen tree. Have you ever seen that? That's an aspen tree that's like on its way out because it's riddled with fungus, and that shelf fungus is coming out. Even these mycelia on leaf litter, they're digesting that leaf litter. So this is great. It's just great to see like this action of wood digesting in the wild. So, okay, I'm so glad you asked that. Most of the time, fungus attack a tree that's already weak. So it's like, oh, I'm on my last legs, and the fungus is like, hi, can I help you? But there are a couple of actual, it's parasitic, the pathogenic mushrooms. The honey mushroom that I mentioned before is pathogenic. So it doesn't go, how are you feeling? Are you dead yet? It's like, bam! So yeah, it can infect, some fungus can infect it, but usually it's like it's on its way out. Aspens are really short-lived. They're all clones of themselves anyway, and if you have an aspen that's like over 30 years old, that's a very elderly aspen, and yeah.
What about the formation of peat? The peat bog?
Oh, well, that's very interesting. I think that peat is compressed moss, and I don't think that there's fungus action in there. I could be wrong. So yeah, so when you're out and about and you're seeing fungi that are on trees, at least part of that tree is infected. Okay, so I did actually give you a prompt for this one. What faith parallels do you see with wood-digesting fungi? My small idea was something like, we do an unglamorous, necessary job that no one else wants. But I know you guys can come up with other things too. So please take 3 minutes and find some faith parallels with wood-digesting fungi. All right, let's hear from somebody on this side of the room and tell us your idea or the idea of the person who you talked with. What parallels do you see with wood-digesting fungi?
Like getting rid of your old self and taking on your new self.
Uh-huh.
And in a nutshell, that was one. And the other was,
Right, grunt work jobs in the church.
which are very necessary, well, the church and across the world,
Sure.
and in missionary work and
Right.
everything, but very, very necessary for society to progress and continue and get better. And
I like it.
somebody has to clean the toilets, you know, and pick up the garbage. And
Right.
It's very necessary.
Chew the toothpicks.
Right, right.
Well, the essential workers, we call them now, but
Yeah.
but a lot of them have jobs that are grunt work jobs that are, don't get a lot of respect, but they really are essential,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And not fun and not tasty the way wood is not tasty.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's tedious and they just
Yeah.
do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is similar to yours, but I think we came up with that you have to kind of come to God broken. and
Say
weak.
it again?
You have to come to God broken and weak for him to work with you, and then he comes in and then takes you down to nothing and then builds you back up with new life.
Ah, I like it. Like the cycle of the nutrients, the cycle and the breaking down and the building up and the breaking down and the building up. I like that. I would hold up a lion cub right now.
But Leslie asked a question, also I'll steal her thunder,
Yeah.
but she, especially at this time of year, we lift up this image from the book of Isaiah, but from the stump of Jesse shall come forth a new shoot, right?
Oh.
From the root of Jesse. So,
Really?
Right, yeah.
Just for me? Yes! Wait, I have a picture of this. Wait. Ah!
All right, yes.
Wait, this is, who is this now?
This is Jesse.
And is that
That's
Isaiah?
the shoot of the branch coming forth.
Okay.
Lo, how a rose are blooming.
Oh, right.
Right,
My
yes.
favorite one. My favorite
Yeah.
one. Okay.
Oh, wait, David?
Okay, well, I don't want to take credit for this. Well, Pastor Terrell here had the idea of sin needs to be broken down and eliminated, and the spirituality from Jesus helps us to demolish and destroy sin.
Ooh.
Eliminates injustice.
Wow.
We think the same thing over
You thought,
got it.
okay. Great minds
Thoughts
think
pass
alike.
through the unseen network. Right, sorry.
Yes, I mean, really. Where did you find these people? They're amazing. All right, what
just keep showing up.
Is there one that you thought was really great that we missed? Any?
Dust to dust, ashes to ashes.
yeah.
There's sense
Yeah.
of there's a renewal there
Right.
too. Yeah.
Right. You cannot, like the nutrients get bound up in the trees. You can't use them again until they go down into the, yes, ash. Oh, thank you. I was waiting for that. Okay, good. So this is how fungi are treasures to the ecosystem. They're valuable for feeding trees, and they break down decaying wood, so necessary in the ecosystem. Then we're going to look at how fungi are treasures and connectors for humans. And there are two ways that they're treasures for humans. First, they're really fun to hunt and eat. It's really fun to look for edible mushrooms. And I should say that in American and British literature, there's a lot of wording and feeling around fungus that is very negative. Fungus is associated with death, decay, like gross, slimy, slime molds alone. it's not only sort of in our culture, but it's interwoven in the literature. This is not true of other cultures. There are other, we're going to talk about them in a second, there are cultures where mushrooms are like, you say, well, would you like to come to dinner and have my field, the mushrooms that I got in the field? And in Russia, people will say, what time? Can we come early? But if you say, oh, have some spaghetti sauce with mushrooms that I picked in the US, people are like, not so hungry, right? But the fact is that, and I know that Craig went on a mushroom foray, right? So, and we'll talk about how you can get in contact with the Arizona Mushroom Society, and going on forays is so much fun. It's like the wonderful walk in the woods without any suffering. You're just wandering. You don't have to get anywhere. You're like, it's really lovely. And to find little treasures that you can eat. And this is something that the Mushroom Club focuses very much on is it edible? And when I would help Eric lead forays, people would, they would go off and then they would trot up with the mushrooms and say, is it edible? Is it edible? Is it edible? Is it edible? So there is they are so delicious, and there's a big focus on edibility. And you can see, we have representatives here of amazingly delicious mushrooms, and why not? I should say as a side note, mushrooms have a lot of very powerful compounds in them, and I was told by the chief mycologist of the Forest Service, the Coconino County Forest Service, that you should never eat raw mushrooms ever. So when a mycologist says no raw mushrooms, that she picks them out of the salad bar, I have never eaten a raw mushroom since I heard that 15 years ago. So I hope to pass on this wisdom to you. Yes, the heating process. So when you cook a mushroom, it transforms some of these compounds. Of course, if it's a deadly mushroom, heating will not fix that. Many of the most deadly mushrooms are insanely delicious, which is bad. So, I will not give you a primer on poisonous mushrooms today. But suffice it to say that cooking, when it's an edible mushroom, will make it more palatable and less dangerous. Any edible mushroom can give anybody tummy upset, though. Yeah, John, what can you add? Yeah, no shaggy manes and wine, because it will make you sick. That's the shaggy mane stuff. I'll show you pictures of shaggy manes. That's in the drug that they would give you if you're trying. They give you a pill with the shaggy mane so you feel sick if you drink, and yeah. And I did not personally experience it. I believe this guy is British, but the Russians are just nuts for mushroom hunting, not to mention the French. It's like this thing, you go out and with your mushroom sticks and you flip up the leaves and you're looking for the things. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. One of my favorite illustrations from one of Paul Stamets' book is this cartoon of Kiki the truffle dog hard at work. And Kiki's going like this. Yeah. You can train pigs to find them too. Yeah. Mushroom hunting, I have had some lovely times hunting for edible mushrooms. It's just fun, and it's accessible and lovely. And this little girl has baskets full of, what's the word in English? Like porcinis, relatives of porcinis. Yeah. I think this is like Norway, that's the UK. So we're a little bit weird here that we don't think this is really amazing. These are the Arizona Fab 4 edibles. They're fabulous because they're really hard to misidentify, though I would do not go hunting mushrooms on the basis of my photos. You have to learn them in the field, what they look like, what they smell like, and what the false ones look like. There just are not a lot of false ones here. The puffballs, they look either like little dough balls or little hamsters all crammed in together. They're only edible when they're white, when you cut them open. Have you guys stepped on puffballs? Like, right, those are the puff. When they're very mature, they're olive green and they poof, and you can't eat them then. But when they're pure white, they're lovely. The aspen boletes are very, if you want to start with one, start with the aspen bolete. It's meaty, it looks like a porcini, it's very easy to identify with this reticulated stem, those marks on the stem, and they live under aspens, and they're lovely. The lobster mushrooms, you guys were looking for lobsters. These are actually, technically they're not one mushroom, they're a mushroom that got colonized by another fungus, or is it a bacteria, John, or is it a fungus that makes the lobster? Usually it's a russula. It starts out as a russula and gets colonized. And anyway, that when you're running around in the woods in Flagstaff, if you see like a lump underneath the leaf litter, they call them mushrumps. Sometimes the lump, you take off the leaves and there's a lobster mushroom sitting under there. So they're wonderful. You can get them in the Flagstaff Farmers Market. And then the shaggy manes grow on cow poop. And they're the ones that you shouldn't eat with alcohol. They have this awesome way of spore dispersal. They don't poof and out, they deliquesce. So these little caps like turn to liquid and curl up and goes all black, and they're like, they just melt everywhere. They're really fun. You don't eat them when they're deliquescing, only when they're like this. Okay, so there may be, in some mushroom clubs, possibly an overemphasis on edibility. And there's a lot of reasons why obsessing about, is it edible and I only want the edible ones, there's several reasons why this may not be a good idea. If you misidentify a mushroom, it can kill you. Unfortunately, there's no one rule for what are the bad ones. There's like 10,000 complicated rules. This is a bolete, but it's a devil's bolete, which is why we wrote bad on it. These are both, I think, bad ones. So it can be dangerous to only want to do edible mushrooms. Also, if you go out for edibles and you don't find any, then maybe your trip was not successful. That's bad. The nice thing about mushrooms is you can go out for mushrooms, and if you define success as, I will find any mushroom and it will be interesting, you will always have a successful mushroom hunt. You can, I mean, maybe not today, you can't find mushrooms in Flagstaff, it's covered with snow, but you can always find something interesting. So they're fun to hunt whether they're edible or not. These are the mushroom glasses. We call them mushroom eyes, that you can go out in the field and you're like, I don't see any. And then you're like, oh, and then you start to see what they look like. And then you're like, then you see another one, and all of a sudden you have your mushroom eyes on. And then you're like, And my daughter, Cecily, she's 10 now, and she would be mortified. I'm going to show you pictures of her as a toddler. This kid has like mushroom eyes on all the time. She actually has horned lizard eyes on all the time, too. She can spot a tiny horned lizard like from 50 yards. I don't know how she does it. She's closer to the ground. But it's just absolutely delightful to look. So this is her, I don't know, a year and how old is a child like this? 2? She loved hunting for lobster mushrooms and Caesar's amanita and stuff. And the analogy is like for bird watching. Like, Do bird watchers have to eat every bird they see? Of course not. That would be dumb. It's fun to just find them and identify them. And it's the same with mushrooms, with the added benefit that the mushrooms don't fly away. So that's awesome. I always thought that mushroom hunting was like Easter eggs. Like, it's just, you find the one, and then you're, and you find another one, and you find another one, and it's just so interesting. Speaking of puffballs, this is a giant puffball. You know when you drive up to the Snow Bowl, up to the top of the ski resort, and there's that sort of big meadow on the left before you get to the parking for skiing? These big meadows have these giant puffballs in them. And you can slice them up and put them in the toaster. You can fry them in butter, like anything fried in butter, really, right? But it was just so much fun, even if you don't find anything to eat. So some major shapes, if you're interested in going out and you're interested in just having a good time identifying stuff, you don't even have to identify the actual mushroom, but you can look for the major shapes. So the classic mushroom action is gills, which gills are almost all of our culinary mushrooms. The buttons, the portobellos, you turn them over and there's gills. So you can say, look, I found a gilled mushroom. Another type you'll see is pores. And these are, you can find these on those porcini mushrooms have pores. And then there's also one called a slippery jack, which I'll show you, very common in Arizona. It's yellow and it's super slippery and really horrible to eat unless you pickle them young. Don't eat them. But the pores, so you turned it out, and you're like, oh, this is a pored mushroom, so that's fun. Occasionally you will see a mushroom like the hedgehog mushroom that has teeth instead of gills or pores. Those are super exciting because they're fun to pet. But there's not very many of mushrooms with the teeth. Then you can sometimes find puffballs and earth stars. I really love the spiky puffballs, and if you can find them to eat, they're just crunched delightfully. If you ever find an earth star, depending on how wet the environment is, what they do is when it rains, these little arms and stuff will pull them up. And then when a gust of wind comes along, they'll go, whoosh, and they'll poof out their spores. So if you find an earth star, you can pick it up and you can go and breathe moist air on it, and you can maybe make it poof. And, fun in the woods. Yeah. You can also find lots of fans and shells. Oysters, jack-o'-lanterns are really common in Arizona, and they're just giant orange mushrooms, and I think that they do something funny under black light. I think they look green under black light. You see a lot of turkey tails. I know you guys have all seen turkey tails. And then every now and then you'll find the artist's conchs. See up here, the undersides are white. You can turn those over and you can make beautiful art drawings on them, and they will dry and your art will be preserved. You can also find weird stuff. And John, if I had remembered about slime molds, I would have put them in here. Witch's butter. Do we have witch's butter in Arizona? I think we do. No? All right. Well, clearly this is a picture from Maine, as you know. It's a fungus that looks very much like butter, but it does not taste like butter. It tastes like Jell-O with no flavoring. You will find corals and cauliflower mushrooms also in the woods. So anytime you're like, is that a plant? Maybe not. It could be a fungus of some kind. These are some of the common ones you'll see in Arizona. The rustulas, if you break their stem, they break like chalk. It's not fibrous at all. And in Russia, they're called sirayushka, raw eaters. One of the ones you can maybe eat raw. But all the ones in Arizona that I've ever tasted are super bitter. If you just nibble the edge and you're like, it tastes like strong pepper, they will upset your tummy. So I don't know of anybody who really likes to eat rustulas. They're the slippery jacks. They're the ones that you're like, oh, yay, I found a big mess of boletes. And you're like, no, they're slippery jacks. And then we have a lot of amanitas as well. The classic toadstool. Mostly in Arizona, what we have is the yellow amanita with the white spots. The red with the white spots that the toad is under or the fairy is under. They're not so common in the western U.S. Mostly it's yellow that I've seen. Oh, wait. We saw turkey tails. What am I doing? All right. Yes, turkey tails and conchs common in Arizona. Okay. Here's your last faith parallel question. So looking for focusing only on edible mushrooms or looking for any mushroom, edible or not? Faith parallels? Go. 3 minutes? Yep. All right. Let us start on this side this time. Faith parallels with mushroom hunting. I like to collect sentences in English that have never been said before. Like, there is still lettuce in my shoe, right? But faith parallels with mushroom hunting, I don't know. Has that ever been put together before?
I think that's a new.
Okay, maybe it's a new one.
That's a neologism.
I'm gonna write it down. So, faith parallels over here on this side.
Well, we'll start over this.
You were starting on this side. Sorry.
Ralph, you want to say a couple of things we were thinking about?
Well, one of the things that we thought about was just Jesus tells us, by their fruits you will know them. So we're supposed to evaluate the world, through a discerning eye, not a judgmental eye, but through a discerning eye. So we're supposed to suspend judging in terms of leaping to conclusions, but we should be discerning in terms of, where we spend our time and with whom and those kinds of things.
So like really looking.
Paying attention. Yes.
Paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not judging. Okay, I like it. Yes, there's right here, yes.
Doug?
I think we all agreed if not, I think it's in Philippi, where false magicians were taking you for a ride. Faith parallels, when you're looking for an edible mushroom, make sure you be aware that you're looking for the right one and not just jump in, oh, it's a mushroom, let's have lunch.
Aha, I like it. Yes. Cool, good. Okay, yes? More ideas.
Well, we kind of have a ditto on the first one.
Okay.
Basically looking through the eyes of God when you look at different people, because, then you're going to see things differently. And the second one was, always keeping our eyes open because we can see God's work in everything.
Aha. Yes. Even the poisonous.
Even the poisonous,
and,
if you see something, if you're looking through God's eyes, then you can see, or keeping your eyes open. Yes. So if you keep your eyes open, like you can see the works of God in other people's lives, and you might not notice it before. It might look like, what were you saying? Like
the mushroom eyes.
The mushroom eyes,
things start coming out at you, and when you really calm and notice, things start popping out, and there's more to
in
notice
places
and
that you might not
appreciate.
even realize it, that you would maybe kind of overlook before, but if
Ooh.
you keep your eyes open, you see it.
I like it. It's like, you learn a new word, and then all of a sudden it is in all the books you read. Right? You're like, yes.
Oh, John, yeah.
Yes.
While I'm getting over to John, one of the things I thought of too was if we come to our faith experience with just thinking, I only want this part of it. Like I said, I only want the edible mushrooms, saying if I come to church, it's like I only like the music, then I might just say I'm missing some of the other aspects. If I'm so focused on the one thing, I might miss deeper aspects of true and genuine encounter with the other. I'm just making stuff up. Here we go. All right, John.
In any congregation, and people of faith come in all different colors, shapes, sizes, whatever.
Yeah.
And we all worship the same God.
Yeah. I like it.
Oh, who was it? I missed one. Here. Okay. Don't trip.
excuse me for standing, but the excitement that she shows when you're out looking for mushrooms. We had a good fortune this summer of up in the White Mountains of finding hundreds of thousands of mushrooms and toadstools, but the exciting ones are porcinis. But anyway, it's kind of like when you have a big puzzle and you're looking for a puzzle, and you're looking, and all of a sudden you find the piece. Wow, it's an excitement. And when you see a porcini, chanterelle, or morel, I mean, it's like, wow, I found one. And it really gives you a sense of satisfaction. And in a way, kind of like in the church, you don't realize it until you need help from one of the ministers or some of the parishioners or the people that can really help you out of a bind. Same feeling when you find a mushroom or you get help from someone that you aren't expecting. Anyway, and I won't elaborate any longer, but on the porcinis, I mean, they're kind of the color of my hand and big stalk with pores. Have any of you ever eaten at the Capitol Grill? Are you aware of how they season their steaks?
Porcini powder.
Porcini powder.
It's umami.
Yep.
Yeah.
They cover it with olive oil and then put the porcini powder on.
Yum.
And then they brush it with balsamic vinegar. But they are so exciting and you can't miss them. Anyway,
That's so great.
we have
Thank
the
you.
head of the Mushroom Society up there, and he is so great.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, and one thing that, when Mike and I were talking today, you said something like, many people are in a situation only looking for what they can get out of it. Like, what can I benefit personally? Like a little bit of, and I'm not saying that hunting for edible mushrooms is greedy, but like a self-oriented position of, I only want the tasty ones and I don't care. And it's looking for all of them is maybe more, is the word ecumenical, like inclusive and appreciating all of it, not just for how it can benefit me, but that this is glorious. And the poisons in mushrooms are in there to serve the mushroom. Like John was talking about how mycelia meet underground. There's like epic battles under there and like 15 different kinds of sects of like different, I don't know even what, like you can tell like by the border. It's just, it's a very complicated life of mushrooms. And it's one reason why they can break stuff down is that they have all these interesting compounds. So whether they hurt us or not, they have nothing to, they're not even thinking about poisoning us. They're like, I'm doing my miraculous life of myself. And you ate me, oops. Yeah.
Now, is that the way trees, I mean, the trees can't move, but when they can communicate with those trees over there through the mycelium?
I don't know about that.
Eric.
Yes.
You've referenced Eric before. Your
yes, my
former
former husband.
Right,
yes.
He explained to me that this is how trees communicate with one another.
Oh.
So that there's actually grand communication about if one tree is threatened, it sends out a signal through the mycelia network to tell the others around it, and they bolster and they strengthen the one that's weak.
I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about tonight how fungi are treasures to the ecosystem because they give nutrients to trees, they partner with trees, and we've seen some faith parallels with this partnership, and also with the underground faith conspiracy, right, mycelium. And also because they do the job of breaking down dead wood, which is so necessary to return nutrients to the soil, ashes to ashes, et cetera. And fungi are also treasures to humans because not only are they good to eat, like hunt edible ones, but they're also just fun to hunt, whether they're poisonous or not. And you can totally pick a poisonous mushroom, look at it, turn it upside down, leave it. You are not going to die if you touch any mushroom. Like, just don't eat it. Yeah. So next time you're outside, next time you go out in the woods somewhere, there is actually fungus life in in the low desert here. It's more fungusy up where you have more herbaceous plants. But think about fungus tree partnerships. Look at a plant and go, I'll bet you have a partner helping you be so successful. Appreciate that when you see wood chips down or sticks or leaves, leaf litter, duff, appreciate that that is going to be taken care of for us by wood digesting fungi. And you can say, thank you, fungi. You can take a course and learn to look for edible mushrooms. It's the same with any kind of identification, be it hawk identification or anything. Start with one or two. Get very familiar with what they look like, what they don't look like, what they feel like, what they look like in context. There's no one rule. You start with the one or two and know them super well. And so that's like anything that's for sure a yes, that's yes. Anything else is a no for eating. And then you can expand what's good, but there's some ones that they will taste delicious and then you need a new liver before you know it. But also, I can highly recommend that when you go out, just look for any kind of mushroom, anything, edible or not. You can pick it, it's fine, because it's just the fruiting body, they can make more. Pick it, turn it upside down, look, see, are there gills under there? What does this look like? What is it under? What tree is it under? What tree might it be helping? You can have so much fun. You don't even have to walk very far. If you're interested in more information about Arizona mushrooms, here's the link, and it's on your paper, to the Arizona Mushroom Society. They have regularly scheduled forays, usually they'll do maybe a morel foray in the spring, they have stuff in the summer and the fall. And then this one, the Arizona Mushroom Identification, Eric, my former husband, made this beautiful website with like so much good information, and if John were here he would really love it. There's just a lot about Arizona mushrooms, very accessible, interesting, lots of pictures. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for joining the Fran Park Center for Faith and Life. Our mission is to serve the church and community through innovative, inclusive, and transformative education. Check out our website at www.franparkcenter.org for more information about upcoming events, programs, pilgrimages, and opportunities to get involved. If you enjoyed this program and would like to see more like it, please consider a donation. You can find more information of ways to support the Park Center on our website.